How can you not be romantic about this French Open? Roland Garros, sorry. Jeez, oh Pete. Already messing up, looking very American. I'm wearing a Dodger hat, which is actually pretty international. But how can you not be romantic about this Roland Garros tournament? Steve, I am David EJ Berger. This is the All Surface Show, and I'm welcoming in my main man in Melbourne, Mr. Ace Previews himself. Steve, welcome in.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was pretty critical a couple of weeks ago. I think before we started talking on our last show about where the storylines were going to come and how the tournament was going to shape out. But I think it's been one of the more entertaining fortnights. I think in terms of a Grand Slam it's been a while. It's been a long while.
Oh yes, no, it has been the best slam. I mean, I'll go as far to say before the pandemic. I mean, it's the best slam since before COVID, for sure. So the only issue though is, and we are going to have maiden winners on both sides. The men's side though, I mean, come on. Do we really want to see Zverev win a title? I don't know. I guess so.
It's nice to see an Italian make a deep run for a change. No, I think what this does set up is one of the more interesting finals, I think, because for all that can be said about Zverev in terms of his tennis and his performances over the last couple of years, he's never been this much of a favorite in a final. Like, there is a significant amount of expectation now. That's really, really shifted.
How has he handled those expectations in the past?
Some could say he could do it better.
I think though at this point it's such a, I don't know, it's a beaten horse. I mean, it's out there. We know it. It's to a point where I almost think that he's just going to overcome it because it's just so, like, it's so overdone at this point that I think although he might just do it again because who knows, and then that might just be like his fatal flaw ultimately. But I feel like at this point it's just so overdone, so over talked about, so overcooked into everything that him just winning in straight sets wouldn't shock me, quite frankly.
Yeah, look, I think. Look, I would still be surprised, I think, if he lost now, because he has been so close. And for all the knocks that you can say on him, he still played some pretty good tennis against Carlos Alcaraz.
Oh yeah,
and a couple of those recent matches. Yes, Jannik Sinner's had the better of him. But the thing with this sport is you can only beat the people that are across the net from you, and he has managed to do that. He had maybe a slight lapse, or Menchik looked really good in that third set in the semi-final, but Zverev was able to get the break straight away in the fourth. I think that's probably where he's been able to improve things, is he's been able to kind of steady himself when things have gone against him a little bit quicker. And if you think about beating the people in front of you, it's probably the first Grand Slam since, was it probably the Zverev Dominic team US Open, when it was in the bubble that's not really the bubble, in terms of probably you take a good player out, and that's probably not the strongest field, but he's beaten who he has to beat, and that's all you need to do. That's why there's the beauty in being the number 2 seed. You get as far away from the number 1 seed, and you hope that one of the other 6 players that is due to play in before you is the one who knocks him out.
By the way, I appreciate Andre Agassi for not letting Jannik Sinner off the hook for this moment. Not sure if you saw that comment from him on TNT, but he basically was saying, like, I mean, there's no excuse, which is true. There's not. But yeah, if you're Zverev, I know there's so much pressure on you, and you are like the quintessential mentally unstable collapse person in your sport. I don't know. It's just, here's what I will say about Cobolli. he hangs on. Like Zverev has every advantage in this final, every advantage. He should not lose his final. But Cobolli does hang on. And if he's able to hang on deep enough in the 5-set format, which we've seen over and over again over this 2 weeks, and Zverev just wants to be who he is, I mean, Flavio Cobolli will be your 2026 Roland Garros champion.
I mean, the only real blip I think for Cobolli in terms of a level that he produced that was maybe below what we would expect was probably, I think he had 2 chances to serve it out against Zach Schreider. Is that the 4th round? I think it was.
Yeah.
Got broken twice, still managed to then win what was a very close 4th-set tiebreak. And the other one was falling, what was it, a set and a breakdown to Felix Auger-Aliassime. And then, you could say that
he
maybe
course-corrected
Flavio's taken advantage of, Felix, you can kind of put in the Zverev basket a little bit of maybe not making the most of opportunities over the years at Grand Slam level. But, I think that the roof closing, things did work in his favor. But, it's hard to say that someone's got nothing to lose when they're in a Grand Slam final and it's their first one. But there isn't going to be a lot of expectation on Flavio here, which could play into his hands.
All eyes are on Zverev. Yeah. It could, but I mean, I feel like it could only happen deep. Like, I think Zverev will be fine the first 3 sets, but if we get into a 4th, 5th, then I think we have a chance to unlock the faulty cerebral cortex of Z in these moments. And look, Cobolli has, I'm not joking, like he doesn't have, like, Zverev has a better service game, better return game. He's gigantic. He's amazing at tennis. Like, that's why people say he's the best player that hasn't won a slam yet. So, but Cobolli is a guy who is a bit of a roller coaster player. I mean, and can withstand storms in his own service games, let alone a 5-set match. So if he's able to hang on, if he's able to make it work, just you win a breaker, you get that faulty Z forehand set, you get to a 4th.
Yeah.
You're cooking. You're not cooking with gas, but you're cooking. The flame is on.
And I think for this match, there's going to be there's going to be matches within the match in terms of what's going to happen if Zverev does go 2 sets up. How's he going to look in the 3rd set? How are either going to look when it's when they're serving, if they've got a break and they're serving out for sets? How's Zverev going to look serving for the match? There's going to be little moments in here, I think, that we're going to find out a little bit more about both players to an extent. But I think this is one of those tournaments that you might look back in 5 years and go, oh yeah, Zverev won, or Flavio won, or it's just going to be a name on a Wikipedia page, or reference back lightly here and there. When I think about this fortnight now, I think about Lorenzo Mazzetti and Arthur Fils and those guys that
it is really funny.
How would you be sitting? Yeah. How do you sit with that, knowing what could have been, knowing what their level is on clay, their best level, like particularly Fils, I think, like it's hard to say that it's a massive opportunity slipped, but it is really. He turns up on this court by day 6 of Roland Garros. He's probably the favorite.
I agree. It's funny you say that because I texted a group earlier about how I randomly thought about Musetti and what a missed opportunity this was, just to even reach the final of Roland Garros. I mean, win or not, he's not beating Zverev, I don't think, but he has in the past. But I don't think he will in best of 5. But just to be deep, be there, It's like Fils, I think, will get more opportunities. Musetti, though, man, like you were kind of on a roll last clay season. And in general, you've had it kind of cooking. I think Feast is kind of here to stay. I mean, Musetti, the way he plays, I don't think these physical issues will ever go away. And he's got to pick his spots.
But
I mean,
this is
you
the
can
thing,
say that
this is
about
the
Feast
thing
though
with
too,
it.
because he's not here because of over and over physical issues as well. But I don't know. I just trust Feast to be there. He doesn't play the same style that would lead to more injuries.
Yeah, I think long term, yeah, certainly trust Feast more. Short term though, Musetti's now got this from Roland Garros, and he's got was it 2-0 up on Novak at the Australian Open and injuring himself. Now he's compiling a little bit of a CV now of short term missed opportunities that are going to be hard to overcome. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two come back. But it's also, I think it's kind of set the scene, I think, a bit for, not to look too far past this tournament, but I think Wimbledon's going to be interesting now too.
Oh, Wimbledon's going to be a show. I mean, I think Sinner probably rolls to the title, if I'm being honest. But, honestly, it hasn't been his best surface. He is a Wimbledon champion. It's the pinnacle of the sport. So, I mean, he's also the number one player, so he's going to get a good draw. He has lost to Emil Ruusuvuori on grass.
It's
well, I don't even know if he plays tennis anymore, but
well, you can say he's champion, but also, he was 2-0 down on Grigor Dimitrov before
that's a very good point.
Before his pec muscle decided to leave the rest of his body. Like there's question marks and spots and things. I think it's going to be a really, really interesting grass season, across the next couple of weeks leading in, because you sit there and you go, yeah, Sinner, the biggest storyline would be if there was some sort of UK heat wave for the first week. I don't think it's going to be an issue for Sinner there. It's obviously not as physically exerting the grass. I think he certainly would be put first up on day session at any point. But then you look through the rest. So Carlos isn't there. Alexander Zverev hasn't really shown himself to be a major grass player. But if he wins a slam here, what's stopping him from, stepping up and delivering again? Or he could still be hungover from Roland Garros. Who knows?
I want to. I see he even made the semis. I'm not even sure he has. Don't fact check me, people.
His level is littered with disappointing performances at Wimbledon. Then you've got Novak, who you sit there and go, well, can he notch another slam? Maybe. Is it his best chance? No Carlos, and we're playing on grass.
Novak Djokovic?
Yeah.
No, he's cooked. He's done.
Yeah. So then you work your way through. So next in the rankings is Ben Shelton. There's opportunity. You sit there and you look at it and you go, we could be 6 weeks away from, Hubie Hurkacz winning Wimbledon.
I mean, great opportunity for Shelton to. I mean, it was really. I think Shelton probably had a great clay season, to be honest. I mean, he didn't really show out at the Slam, but he does have a clay title now. I mean, not bad.
Yeah, but it's going to be an interesting, I think, fortnight there, because if we thought there were question marks around Roland Garros, it's probably going to be more around Wimbledon. I think Carlos still isn't going to be there, and you've got instead a list of names that aren't exactly dominant on the grass, but could a Lerner Tien or Alex Demon or someone make a run just because you have trust in their level on the surface to be able to hang around and use the surface to their advantage. I think it's going to be a really interesting month or so for the men's tour. Well, everyone jostles to try and take advantage of no Carlos.
There's a lot of points on the horizon in the mini month of, it's not a mini month, but in the mini season that's like a month long of grass season. There's a couple 500s in there. There needs to be 1,000 grass event. That's ridiculous. There's not, quite frankly. But I don't. Players are going to earn some points that are going to be surprising, I think.
Yeah. And it's a lot of points because Jannik's not playing in any lead-up tournaments, I'm pretty sure. So there's going to be a lot of availability in terms of those points and maximizing across the course of a week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a narrative we've been driving on this podcast on the MP9 show about the changing of the guard, and there's a lot of turnover this year, and that I think was well displayed at the French Open or at Roland Garros this year. And I think it's just going to continue into the summer. I do think we'll see a little bit more of a hard court summer that finds, it sees some water finding its level, especially if Carlos comes back. I do think a return to hard courts will help Novak as well. I think Novak could, if he plays Cincinnati, I don't know if he's committed or not, but I could see Novak winning Cincinnati, quite frankly. But yeah, I think that a lot of opportunity ahead which hard courts don't start till end of July now. So we've got time.
Yeah.
They go back to clay. They go back to clay before they go back to hard courts.
Yeah. And look, Flavio wins tonight or tomorrow night. He's going to be the number 4 seed, potentially at Wimbledon. It's a crazy little patch, but good on him for taking advantage. He's been really, really solid this tournament, particularly after how his Australian Open ended in a blaze of upset stomach in round 1.
We'll wrap it up in terms of the final, and we'll circle back to more talk. But I'll end by saying this. I think Zverev is obviously, everyone thinks he should win, an odds-on favorite. No one's going to be shocked when he doesn't, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's talk about the women's final and these two players, Steve, and I'll let you lead that discussion. I definitely have no opinion on one of the finalists who has been a revelation to many people. I mean, unless you really follow the sport, you don't know who this woman is. And Mirra Andreeva, I think we were kind of, last time we spoke, not necessarily the last time, but one of our podcasts, we definitely were like, she kind of misses January a little bit. She was in a bit of a rut before this breakout, but fulfilling her promise, which I think a lot of people are very happy about, including myself. You don't want to see someone who has such a great personality, even if she has her rough moments. She seems like, a very likable character. It's nice to see her kind of bounce back and push her way into something that I think has been kind of put upon her for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll start with Mirra. Obviously, I think it's hard for these, particularly I think on the women's side, you see more players make their way through, towards the top 100 and to the back end of, those bigger tournaments when they're 16, 17, more than you see it in the men's. The men's you kind of see more, 18, 19. So it's a little bit later. But for Mirra, she's only 19 still, and she feels like she's been one of the staples of the tour for half a decade. She's been there for a while. And that has meant that she's had to basically continue to grow up in front of large crowds and large stadiums, dealing with uncertainty and things, it can be very up and down on a tennis court, depending on, game to game, week to week, month to month. And as we saw that, she started this year brilliantly, leading into the Australian Open, and then, had it faltered a bit and has now found her way back. She is, she's up to now world number 6 in the live rankings. It's been just a really impressive ability to make the most again of draw and opportunity. I think had you told her at the start of the tournament that she, the toughest player she'd have to face to get to the final was Marta Kostyuk, she'd probably take it, even though Kostyuk had been in some really, really good form, across the course of the clay season and hadn't lost. But when you look at the other names in there, like Sabalenka, Rybakina, Swiatek, Pegula, if she was told that she'd make the final and she didn't have to face any of them, Coco Gauff, Svitolina, I think she would have taken it. So she's certainly made the most of it in that respect. And now she gets a qualifier in the final, Maja Chwalińska, who this it brings a couple of interesting stories to it. So the poll, again, it's been a while since a Polish woman's won Roland Garros. Iga and her now seem to be taking control of the finals of the last decade here. But she comes in as a qualifier, and it doesn't take long to look at her game and the style and the variety and the inability to give any rhythm to her opposition to realize that you can basically look at any tournament that she plays. The person that beats her generally has to be in pretty good form. Chwalińska is not just going to be that type of player who hands victories away, at the drop of a hat. She was on the ropes. She was down 2-4 in the first set tiebreak against Schneider in the semi-final, won 5 points in a row and never really looked back from there. She is able to kind of just force these little runs, I think, of errors and frustration from her opposition, which presents as a really interesting prospect, I think, for this match, given Andreeva was known to become a bit frustrated, and now the expectation and everything, after being the underdog in the semi-final against Kostyuk.
Yeah, well, I agree with you that she's kind of flown under the radar, not necessarily as the big favorite. Now she's obviously a big favorite betting wise, but I mean, she's definitely a name brand on the WTA, even at her young age.
Yeah, and Chwalińska had the crowd support, I think, in the semi-final too. There's a strong Polish contingent there. Maybe they were hoping they had tickets and were hoping to see Iga, but they've come out of it well. I think this is going to be a really fascinating match again, in a similar way to can Zverev handle it? Can Andreeva handle the pressure here and the expectation and the opportunity? I think that's going to be fascinating. And the other thing to come out of this as well is, you look at the WTA live rankings, and Chwalińska is currently in the live rankings ranked 21st, which is incredibly impressive. And if she wins, she goes up to 14th in the world. As of right now, she's in Wimbledon qualifying because her ranking hasn't afforded her a main draw position. Does the wild card come? Should it have already come?
I mean, they're pretty rigid, so I don't know.
So all of a sudden,
wouldn't be shocked if it doesn't come, but most tournaments that aren't the pinnacle of the sport probably would.
And that's the thing. So, you're going to have a top 20 player potentially rattling around in qualifying in a couple of weeks' time at Wimbledon. Particularly, I suppose there's also the looming shadow of how far into the comeback is Serena Williams, and does she ask for one potentially as well? There's a lot of questions. I think I wouldn't like to be the Wimbledon organisers trying to facilitate these things when you've got to try and balance. Well, one, you've got to balance giving your own, local players support, and two, you've got now someone who you weren't expecting to even contemplate giving a wild card to now in the Roland Garros final, and two Williams sisters who are probably going to be keen. At least one will be keen for a wild card. It's going to be it raises another interesting question, but I think it just shows we talked about this at the start of the tournament. Anyone can beat almost anyone in the women's game at the moment. And I think that's what's so fascinating about it, that Sabalenka and Rybakina, yes, they're well ahead in terms of the rankings, but neither of them have had one of those kind of, jaw-dropping dominant clay seasons or seasons to date. Sabalenka's now 0 for 2 in Grand Slams whilst being, the top-ranked player, but she's only 900 points now ahead of Rybakina. I think it shapes as a really interesting kind of back end of the season as to, who from the women's game from that kind of 6 through 30 can make their way and make their push up to knock on the door of the likes of Anisimova, Pegula, and Iga in terms of being those top 5 players.
Over the weekend, I was texting with a friend about how I felt like Sabalenka was not getting enough credit for patching over many of her mental issues that were keeping her out of the heights at which she has soared to. And of course, as a reward for me saying that, she reverts back to everything that was wrong with her game, like 21, 22. But yeah, and also a bit of a throw. I will say though, we talk about how on the women's side there's a lot of surprise winners. I do feel like it had consolidated quite a bit. This is a bit of a throwback from the women's side. Like the men's side is just pure chaos because Jannik Sinner just collapsed out of nowhere. The women's side, I it's a more surprising to me, like in a way, because I think it was through bad play. Like,
Yeah.
they had consolidated those top seeds, and it had been kind of the same names into the semis, into the final, and this is like, I mean, it's the first time a qualifier has been in the final since 2021. I think it's only 2 times ever, but very, very akin to those time frames.
Yeah, and I think it was, I think it was Madison Keys made a comment about halfway through the tournament, and she was talking about how there was that kind of nervousness and unease through the whole locker room that was starting with all the men's players. Like it was that, I think it started with that day. So Sinner lost, and then we went on that run of like men's 5-set matches and like players just really struggling to convert from really dominant positions. And Keys was basically saying like it started as just the men in the locker room, but then it just kind of took over. Like it took over the entire locker room, that everyone was then kind of getting nervy and on edge for, it didn't really change anything for the women. But it just had that kind of feel that there was a whole lot of tension through everyone through the locker room. So it's funny how it kind of does shape out. But then, credit to the 2 men and 2 women who are left standing here with one win between them and raising a Grand Slam title for the first time.
I as much as it would be an amazing story for the qualifier to win, I do want to see Andreeva raise the trophy, and I am rooting for Cobolli. I mean, I hate to say it, but I am. But let's just talk great moments. Let's just look back for a minute, Steve. And one, when this thing first kicked off, I stayed up for it. It's not that funny, but it is. It was a moment. But I remember DMing you and saying we are less than an hour in, and someone's already complaining about having to get off the court because they're about to BM in their pants. And I was reminded of that actually this week because they actually covered that on the Howard Stern show, which I thought was hilarious. And they were also like just straight up name drops Arthur Gea, which was hilarious. So that was definitely a memorable moment to kick off the segment. But if you were going to rank, what are just some a couple of moments that stick out to you? I mean, also I'll before I toss to you, I'll just talk about Menchik against Navoni. Incredible, dude! Like out of nowhere, collapse out of nowhere, standing tall by Jakub Menchik. What a moment for that kid. And I think he can, move on from this tournament and as a different, well, he is moving on as a different player ranks wise, but I feel like he has beaten a lot of fitness charges that'll probably resurface at some point just because that's the nature of the game. It's a very physical sport, but man, he really beat a lot of fitness charges across this tournament.
Yeah. And I think it was Menchik, wasn't it? That
Menchik, sorry.
Menchik. No, that you, John, and I were talking about. Was it him that had his preseason or off-season clips of him running up a mountain?
Yes, he was trying to patch that hole. Yeah,
yeah, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. But it is nice to see, I think, him to be able to find that level. And I think, yeah, in the past there's kind of been that thought with him. You go, oh, yeah, 1, great job to be able to get through against Navone, and then 2, to then lose the first set is it to Demon in 18 minutes and win.
Oh yeah.
and then beat Andrei Rublev in 5 sets. Like there's a lot of, I think this is probably I think for him, personally, I've kind of always lumped him in the group with like the Lehechkas and I'm going to say Lehechka again, but like there's that type of player that we've kind of seen their best. We've seen their best can match it with the top, but they just haven't been able to kind of string that continuity and fitness and endurance, I think, together. Now I think Menchik's got above. Like I think he sits above the majority of the other players now in terms of that one knocking on the door.
Interesting comp with Lehechka, because Lehechka is just a straight up bad returner, and the numbers say Menchik is a bad returner, but the eyes do not. He's big. Yeah. He can get the ball back. He has decent rally tolerance. Yeah. He just loses them more than most, and I think that's what leads to the numbers. But like Lehechka is a big fat 0 on return, and Menchik is not.
Yeah, and this fortnight for both of them probably explains now why there is such a big divide between the two of them. Lehechka's out, pretty much instantly against Carreño Busta without.
I mean, that was a terrible loss.
Yeah, but the thing with Menchik and something that I tried to look at across the course of the tournament as well is looking at how the players handle, those kind of bigger moments through matches, the break points converted and the break points that they've saved and those sort of things. And Menchik was underperforming in converting break points, and he was underperforming in saving break points, but he was still winning. Like there is some significant room for growth, I think, still for him in terms of being able to kind of take things to the next level. Like I think you look at Fonseca saved 12 of 16 break points or something. Yeah, Menchik.
Well, it took him like 6 match points.
Yeah, and I don't think Menchik he may have saved one, but I don't think he saved any break points, I think, on his own serve. And he still comes out of it in straight sets. Like there's a lot of room, I think, for growth still with Menchik, which I think which is really, really fascinating and interesting to see. Maybe not so much for the grass season, but for the US hardcourt swing. We've seen him win a 1,000 on American soil before. It's going to be interesting to see how he kind of strings things together. I think for me, in terms of those highlights, I mean, it's a bit of a soft highlight because it's not really the amount of messages I got from people during the Jannik Sinner match in terms of not even people who are interested in tennis as such, but who kind of latched on to what was happening.
It was a moment.
And I think how it all kind of unfolded. I think normally with those kind of things, you see someone.
Well, it's a historic collapse, so.
Yeah, but I think it was the fact that, but some of those things, generally those situations play out so quickly. Like someone gets hurt, someone retires, and it's kind of done in the blink of an eye. The amount of, I think, messages and conversation I got about it over what was effectively 2 hours. Like the amount of stories that came out of that match of, well, hang on, Sinner's injured, but Sinner's also only 1 game away from winning. There was a story of could he finish it in 3 sets, and then it became now he's a whole set away from winning. Now he has to win 6 games. And I think he went up a couple of break points early in the 4th set. And it was like, oh, okay, here we go. Like he's going to find the way. Like good on him for having a crack. And then to watch it then progressively kind of run away from him, I think it just became, being such a turning point, and I think it's such a focus that it's things like that start to extend outside of the tennis space and the people who are interested in tennis. And we can talk about from us personally. I had friends and family who had messaged saying they were watching it and what would happen. I mean, I wasn't even watching it at the start, and then I was certainly watching it by the end. But you see the comments about it, I think, through social media of people who weren't interested, or people who had perhaps been betting on Sinner because he was so short and it was a near guaranteed win. I think it just brought a whole lot of eyes, I think, to tennis that aren't necessarily latched onto it all the time, more than perhaps a Sinner Zverev final or whatever it might have been. So I think that kind of set the tone. But I think for me, it's that the ability for the lower ranked or the more unexpected players to take advantage of some of these spots and some of these collapses. It wasn't, Sinner wasn't 2-0 down and 1-5 down and made the comeback that kind of everyone would expect. It's, Rybakina lost, in round 2. Sabalenka was, as you said, she was up, was it 6-3, 4-1, 30 love?
It's basically the Sinner match.
Yeah, it's the type of thing. And she said in the end that she just couldn't get her emotions in check for set 3.
Oh, no, she fully hung me out to dry after I said she'd beat her mental game. No, she's literally used the word mental.
Yeah. It's and these are probably then going to end up being the question marks that come with Sabalenka for the next 6 months as we get to the end of the season. You look at her 3-set record, it is not good. When she wins well, but she's not exactly dominant when you get to 1 set all. She lost to Hailey Baptiste.
Well, she has that breaker streak though
clay.
too.
She lost to
I don't know if when you say
Pardon?
she wins well. I mean, she has a lot of. She's won like 80 million breakers in a row.
So but those breakers have come when she's already up a set or it's first set. She's very rarely on the ropes. I think the only time I can think that she was maybe on the ropes, and I could be wrong here, but I think was it the Indian Wells final against Rybakina. There was one that was a third. I feel like it was.
Oh yeah, well she wasn't really on the ropes. It was just more of a back and forth.
Yeah, I think the thing is that's going to be the question mark now is when you win so many matches in straight sets, you kind of avoid those tight moments. But those are the tight moments that you can't really train for, and you can't.
That's like in you forget you forget what the moment's like when you're actually pressed against the wall. That's like what they say, like over here in the States with March Madness, when you have a dominant team who's just kind of rolled everybody, and they actually have to play someone who gives them a game. Like, how do they meet that moment? Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a thing in sports, and to your point, I think that's a pretty good take. I mean, when you're not tested all the time, and then you actually have to meet the moment. I mean, plenty of opportunity for it to go the other way.
Yeah, but look, ultimately, you do need to take into consideration that if the temperature wasn't that hot, Sinner probably doesn't lose, and if it wasn't as windy as it was for the Sabalenka match, Sabalenka probably doesn't lose. I think that played into it as well. But it wasn't like it wasn't windy for 6-3, 4-1, 30 love. Like you can only put so much blame on it. But I think for me, it was refreshing to see in these moments with these big kind of turnarounds and swings, it's been the unexpected player that's come through. It's been them who's made the comeback. I think that's where things have been really, really fascinating across the course of the tournament. And yeah, I think, and we'll talk about it on the next episode as we start to chat more things grass court tennis. But I think it's going to be a really interesting kind of 5 weeks here.
I agree with you. Also, a big difference between Sabalenka and Sinner is that Sabalenka's scheduling was unavoidable and Sinner's scheduling completely avoidable. Like, he did not have to play then and could have avoided that. I mean, I understand taking on the challenge, but I also don't understand it. You have everything going for you in the world. There's no reason for you even to mess around with it. And in a way, good comeuppance for just thinking you could roll over Juan Mascherano, which you were. But I assume that factored into why you chose to move forward with that time slot.
Yeah.
And you paid the price.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we've just talked about a couple of those kind of upset situations, and you haven't even touched on what Adam Walton beating Daniil Medvedev, or Zach Schreiber
that
beating
was ridiculous.
Rundalo. Like, it's
I like both You know why? They're not even worth talking about. Classic Daniil Medvedev, quite frankly, and classic Francisco Cerundolo. It's what it is. It is what it is. Those guys could lose to literally anybody anytime.
Yeah.
Their run bad outpaces other people's run bad.
Yeah. The other probably gatekeeper style win was Fonseca coming from 2 sets down against Djokovic.
Yeah, no, that was a moment as well, and that's worth discussing. I not to bring up the betting show, but I was on Fonseca, and part of the reason I was I didn't believe that Novak could string together 3 sets on serve to close it out, and he did not. And yeah, there was a bit of luck and variance that played into me looking smart, but at the same time, I also felt like Novak was maxing out his serve, and you could say that Zhao's not the best returner, blah blah blah. Dude, he offered up 8-second serves in those first 2 sets. Like he had his best first serve in percentage since like Miami of 2025 or 2020. Yeah, 2025.
Yeah, like
he knew what he had to do, and he was meeting like classic all-time GOAT status, meeting the moment. But it's just tough. Like we just have seen enough of Novak now. Like the dips are there. They exist. He hasn't won. What was the last time he won from 2 down was like at this point 3+ years ago. I think it was Laszlo Jera and US Open. 2023. I mean, he's not the 5-set guy anymore.
No, and that's because he just doesn't play tennis year round now. He's not conditioned. It's a similar thing to Sabalenka and tight moments. I think it's just Novak and time on court. He's just not playing as much, and that's fair enough at his age. But with that, there's going to become dips, and I think for him, his best chance of probably winning a slam now is probably going to be the grass, because it's not going to be a brutal.
I mean, he was dead to rights versus Musetti. Like he was pathetic. He shouldn't have lost to Kovacevic in Indian Wells, but he was very lucky to survive that one, and that was more of a product of service order because he was able to find break points at the right time in the 3rd set. I mean, the dip from set 1 to set 2 against Kovacevic, that was one of the main reasons I was pro Fonseca in that match. I'm like, this guy just can't keep it together. I mean, we saw it against Prismic. You can kind of write off the Prismic match because long layoff, blah, blah, blah. And then he also had a couple matches coming into this match. But yeah, I mean, the dips exist for this guy now, and they just do. And look, the guy sadly might be younger than me. I won't say out loud if that's true or not, but he's still pretty old. And it's tough. I mean, what do you expect from this guy? He's anything else we can get from him, amazing. And again, I'll fully admit, I think he's a strong contender for Cincinnati if he plays.
Yeah.
Like that type of event.
Yeah.
Still relevant.
You bringing up Novak at Indian Wells just reminded me that we talked about Mazzetti and Arthur Fils not being fit for Roland Garros. Jack Draper.
Oh man,
must be another one.
Dude, what about? I mean, like think about this with Jakub Menchik, dude. He actually, you know what the story of Roland Garros is? It might be Jakub Menchik. Sorry, everyone says Menchik now. I guess that is his name. But everyone just started calling him Menchik this week, I feel. He's under the radar, one of the top stories, because he actually. But then again, too, Draper was doing it, so he might pull a Draper too, because Draper had the Indian Wells run. He was doing it last year. He had a big clay season too. He was in the Madrid final. So Menchik does have to back it up before I actually anoint him. But to me, he is probably the biggest revelation of Roland Garros. We knew Zverev was good.
Yeah.
If he wins tomorrow. We kind of knew Cobolli was good. And also Cobolli hasn't really played anybody. And then he got to walk over to the final.
Yeah. Oh, just on that. Whose idea do you think it was to drag Arnaldi out to do a press conference to announce his withdrawal while he was unwell, and then sit him at the same table as Cobolli.
Probably the same tournament director that let Jannik Sinner play the daytime when it was 90+ degrees.
But also, like, just if you want to do a press conference, just let him do a Zoom call from his hotel room where he's feeling like absolute.
They probably felt like there needed to be something. I don't know. It is weird. I mean, he was there, so and Arnoldi was probably like, I guess I'll do it. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a good point. I don't know. Who knows
it's
why
like
anyone does anything?
It just reminded me of the Rudy Gobert press
When he looked
conference
every microphone,
the COVID one where he started touching everyone's microphones and stuff. Like, what are we doing?
Well, he's outrun that by being really good, so maybe Arnoldi will.
Yeah, but just on Jack Draper, he's out of the top 100 now.
Is he really?
He's 112 in the world. He is 1 spot ahead of Christian Gurin, 2 ahead of Martin Dahm, and 2 behind Stan Wawrinka.
I throw him in that bucket with those guys.
And this is that thing now. He's where he goes when he comes back. He's going to be unseated. He's got a lot of work to do to get back to.
When is he coming back? I don't even know. Do we have a timeline? I don't even think we do.
I don't even know, to be honest. He now fits in that level of, you say, Arthur Fils and Rossetti.
Well, Draper, I never think is a real threat at Roland Garros, but Wimbledon he could have been.
So he's going to play Stuttgart, Draper, and this then presents as a weird kind of opportunity for him, I guess. And the other thing, I guess, to keep in mind is for the grass court season. Andy Murray's
is Runa at Stuttgart too?
Potentially, but no. Draper's got Andy Murray coaching him now.
Right. Which drinking buddy?
you mean his designated driver? It just has, Holger has see you on the grass, and he's another one. He would have loved this fortnight. He wouldn't have loved the heat in the first week, but look, it's going to be a slow. I'd be surprised if Runa came back and was just dominant straight away. Achilles injuries, you've seen it with NBA, you've seen it with other sports. It takes a while to get going again.
It does. All right. Well, I feel like this was a great episode, and this is when we usually wrap it up. I am excited for grass, and we should be back for grass. I have been watching grass. I actually watched Yala today. Well, I've been watching Birmingham on the men's side, but I watched Yala today as well. And it's just so nice to have grass back. I'm excited. But what a Roland Garros, what a moment for the sport. I mean, exciting, so many eyeballs on it and so many people talking about it. And I feel like everyone met the moment, even though, it on the women's side, I'm sure some players felt like squandered opportunities. But interesting story for the final on the men's side, even though it is boiling down to friggin' Zverev, to John's point on our MP9 show, like they met the moment when Sinner left. They did. Like the play over the weekend after Sinner was bounced was sensational. The matches we'll be talking about for a long time. The casual fans were into it. It was a really good moment for the sport. And if you've made it here, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe. We probably should have mentioned subscribe. We're out of form. We're out of practice. We'll get more into practice. We are so back. It's our second episode after a long layoff. And we have a run up to Wimbledon. We'll be back. Steve, any final thoughts?
Oh, just that we're I think on our All Service Media YouTube channel, we're on 96 subscribers. So if there are 4 people out there who are listening who have enjoyed this, please do subscribe so we can hit the magical triple digits. But we'll be back more regularly, I think, across the course of definitely the grass season and moving into when the tour heads your way, DB.
Yeah, we have 2 slams on the horizon in relatively quick fashion. And the grass season is I feel like this is a great portion of the calendar. not the clay season isn't great, but it really ramps up here to the finish. I feel so, and it's a good time to be invested in tennis because a lot of sports here in North America will be off unless you're a big baseball head. So do subscribe. More shows on the way, and until next time, see you in the court.